Mrs. Woodson here at Sequoyah Elementary in Claremore, Oklahoma, where we're going to bring another little library share into your living room this morning. Last week, our library share was about a book that we don't want to lick. I don't know if you remember that or not. We talked about microbes that can get on our hands, that can cause viruses and infections in our body. And we talked about some things that we can do to keep our hands clean, like hand sanitizer and soap. That's a responsibility that we have to ourselves. We have, to keep ourselves well, to keep us feeling healthy. Today, we're going to talk about something that we can do to keep the earth healthy. A couple of days ago, actually a couple of weeks ago, Earth Day book. Thank you. A couple of weeks ago was Earth Day. April 22nd, actually, was Earth Day. And I've grabbed this little nonfiction book, and I'm just going to read one little page here to you. It's all about Earth Day. It says, the first Earth Day was held in 1970 to draw attention to the need to care about our planet. Littering and pollution were becoming a problem in the United States and other places around the world. People were being wasteful with materials. Very few people recycled. Earth Day changed all of that. As of 1990, the holiday of Earth Day is held on April 22nd each year all over the world. So in honor of Earth Day, there's some more information, good information in this book about the holiday of Earth Day and things we can do. And as I read through this, one of the things that we can do is recycle our trash. And I was thinking about that last week at my very own house and our trash that we have. And I send out tons of trash to the corner every week. And I started thinking about what can I do to change how much trash goes out to the corner. And I started investigating a little bit, and I got interested into composting. I have a little poem I'm going to read to you today from this book. It's called Compost Stew, an A to Z recipe for the earth. It's by Mary McKenna Seidels, and it's illustrated by her friend, Ashley Wolf. I'm going to start this, I think, by pushing this button down here that says play. And I'll read it to you because I think you're going to be surprised at the ingredients that go into compost stew. Thank you. Compost Stew, an A to Z recipe for the earth. It's by Mary Seidels and her friend Ashley Wolf. Environmental chefs, here's a recipe for you to fix from scratch to mix a batch of compost stew. Look at her spoon. It's a pitchfork. Ingredients. Apple cores, bananas bruised, coffee grounds with filters used. She's got her cores. Dirt clods crumbled, eggshells crushed, fruit pulp left behind, all mushed. Grass clippings, hair snippings, and an insect or two. Just add it to the pot and let it all rot into compost stew. Ugh. Save jack-o'-lanterns, kitchen scraps, laundry lint from dryer traps, mulch removed from garden beds, nutshells, oatmeal, and paper shreds, quarry dust, rye bread crust, and seaweed strands, a few. Just add it to the pot and let it all rot into compost stew. Take tea bags plucked from long hot swimmings. He's putting the tea bags in. Underbrush prunings, cutting them away, and vegetable trimmings. oops, sorry. Wiggly worms with compost cravings, Christmas tree needles and yellow pine shavings. And zinnia heads from flower beds whose blooming days are through. Just add it to the pot and let it all rot into compost stew. The goose is adding a plum. Moisten, toss lightly, cover, let brew. And when the cooking is complete, Mother Earth will have a treat. Dark and crumbly, rich and sweet. Now open the pot, and what have you got? Compost stew. One more page. This page tells us what not to put into compost stew, and I have to stand back a bit to read it. Let me get it. It says, out of pumpkins, low on flies, get creative, improvise. You can always substitute any veggie, plant, or fruit, but please recycle them instead. They won't break down. No, not a shred of metal. Don't put it in there. Plastic. Don't add that into your compost. Packing foam or chemicals found in the home. What's more, no meat or dairy, please. No bones or gravy, fish or cheese, for these will cause an awful smell, attracting animals as well. Earthy? Yes. Meaty? No. Not synthetic, stop. Natural, go. So spice it up, but be judicious. Keep it wholesome and nutritious. Mother Earth will say delicious compost stew. Those were all things that they don't want you to put into the compost stew. So I'm going to slide my card over here. I think I'm going to stand on this side. Slide my Earth Day book down. So we talked about trash. Let's get back a little bit. Here's good. Trash. Plastic. Cans. Cups. Can go into the trash. What the Earth Day wants us to do and remember to do as an environmental person that's being aware and being a good citizen and taking care and keeping the earth healthy is to not just throw it out to the corner. We can recycle these, and they can take them off and they can turn them in to a brand new plastic bottle, a brand new aluminum can, or a brand new plastic cup that we can drink out of. Now she talks about compost stew, taking trash and turning it into soil. It's black and rich and crumbly. Let's take a look at, my worms are somewhere. Oh, they're here. Okay, let's take a look. So these are some things that I picked up out of my yard that I'm going to actually make a little compost stew. I picked up some sticks that were in my yard. These would be like the prunings that she talks about in the story. These are dried leaves. I can put these down in here in my compost stew. Truly, this week, I ate pistachios. I could have thrown those in the garbage and added more trash to the corner this week. But I can put them down here in my compost stew. And we can mix this all up with my peppers that I cooked last night. You know, the inside part of the bell pepper that you don't eat? It can go in there. I have a bulldog at my house. She's a French bulldog puppy, and she likes to shred paper. Yes, she does. It's a true story. And here I have some paper that she got a hold of and shredded into nothing. It was actually some mail. So we can put that in there because it says paper. It's not metal. It's not plastic. It's earthy. Talked in the story about tea bags. Do you drink tea at your house? It can all go in. Oh, here's the rest of my pepper that we didn't eat. The core, the center. They talked about crushed eggshells. I hard-boiled some eggs this week. I could have thrown it out in the garbage, but I'm going to put it inside here. Do you ever eat an apple? It can go in. Oh, every day I drink my coffee, and the coffee grinds can go in. And a bruised banana. This one's bruised. I found it at the bottom of my fruit bowl, and yet, so I'm going to put it down in here. I don't know if you noticed, I like this too, and I didn't even think about it. Dryer lint can go in your compost. Yeah, dryer lint. There's a couple more leaves. And what I loved in that story is she talks about these guys right here, wiggly worms. Does she say to put them in the compost stew? Here's a big guy. Look at him. Earthworms are the main ingredient in compost stew. So I have him. I think there's a couple more in here. Oh yeah, here's one. I just dump the whole thing in there. Let's just do that. Because when I pull on him, we're going to find out what happens if I break him in two. Look how big these guys are. Do you know that they're the main ingredient in your compost stew? Let's read and find out why. Because these guys are garbage devourers. The best kind of garbage, can't be that plastic garbage. Oh, there's another one. Here he comes. Ugh. Compost stew is kind of icky. I need to wipe my hands off before I touch my books. They're garbage devourers, earthworms are. Let's read and learn about what they do and why they're a main ingredient. In the poem, it said, wiggly worms with compost cravings. And that's what they have, too, is a compost craving. Let's take a look inside this book. It's called Earthworms, Underground Burrowers. I'm going to read this to you. And let's find out why it's so important to have these guys as part of our compost stew. In a nonfiction book, the author's purpose is written, they write it to inform us. The author of this book, her name is Adele Richardson, and it's a Bridgestone book. Earthworms, Underground Burrowers. Table of contents is always part of a nonfiction book. It gives you a clue on each page if you're looking for a specific thing. That's what I love about nonfiction. We don't usually have to read the whole thing, but today I'm going to read it to you. You might learn something because I know I did. It says earthworms have long, thin bodies covered by moist skin. They have small hairs called, I don't know how to pronounce this word here. So you know what I'm going to do in this nonfiction book? I'm going to go to the back. I don't know if you know this or not, but in nonfiction books, there's a thing called a glossary. It's a mini dictionary in the back. Sometimes it's called Words to Know. It says CHAETAE, KT are small hairs. KT help protect earthworms from their enemies. So that is pronounced KT, and they're small hairs on worms. Let's go back. KT. KT. Okay, they have small hairs called KT all over their bodies. A clitellum wraps around their middle of the body. Both ends of earthworms are pointed. An earthworm's head often looks like its tail. Did you know earthworms have hairs all over their bodies? I didn't. I thought they were slimy and slick. I didn't feel hairs on them. It says earthworms are invertebrates. Earthworms do not have backbones. Earthworms are also annelids. Annelids have long, soft bodies made up of many ring-shaped segments. And I don't know if you can see in this picture very well, but each one, he's got segments going all the way down his body. And if you can see really closely, here you can see his KT, the hairs underneath on his on the bottom side of his body that help him grab onto the earth. Earthworms often crawl in warm, wet soil. Some earthworms live close to the surface of the soil. Others dig deep burrows in the ground. Earthworms hide from enemies under rocks, logs, or rotting leaves. A burrow is a hole or tunnel under the ground where an animal lives. And I don't know if you realize this about earthworms, but earthworms in their burrows provide holes under the earth for water to be able to get into the plants. Also, other little animals and microbes can get into those little tunnels. Without earthworms, water wouldn't seep into the ground, and the other little animals wouldn't be able to get down into the soil without them. Here's a fun fact. Earthworms breathe through their skin. What do earthworms eat? Here we go. Earthworms eat rotting plants and vegetables. This is going to be rotting in a few days, and they're going to eat it. They also eat the remains of animals. Earthworms swallow soil and small rocks with their food. The soil and the rocks help earthworms grind up food inside their bodies. Here's a fun fact. Earthworms have 5 hearts. Each heart pumps blood to a different part of its body. Young earthworms. Adult earthworms do not take care of their young. Young earthworms are smaller than adult earthworms, but they grow quickly. A young earthworm can be an adult in about 90 days. Adult earthworms do not live long. Many die about 1 week after being in the wild. Fun fact, earthworms do not have eyes. They use eye spots to sense light. Earthworms, such as night crawlers, only come to the surface of the soil when it's dark. Night crawlers usually live in deep burrows, and earthworms usually feel the ground because of the vibration. That's how they know something, since they don't have eyes. Earthworm enemies. Earthworms have many enemies. Birds, frogs, and snakes eat earthworms. Some people use earthworms for fishing bait. Katie, help earthworms protect themselves from enemies. Earthworms grab onto the sides of their burrow with these hairs. Have you ever seen a robin trying to pull a worm out of the ground? And it looks like the worm is winning because he can't get it to come right out. You'd think it would slide right out. But because of those tiny hairs on its body, he's like pushing back with his feet and all his feet to keep himself down in that hole. The snake is eating this worm for lunch. Earth regeneration. That's something that earthworms can do. Earthworms can regenerate, which is really cool. An enemy sometimes breaks an earthworm's body apart. Earthworms can sometimes grow a new tail or a head. They often die when they try to grow a new head. Earthworms cannot eat without their head. That makes sense. There can be many sizes of earthworms. Some can be 1 inch tall, about 1 inch long or tall, long. And then the African earthworm, the longest one in the world, can be 22 feet long. That is huge. 22 feet. Get out the tape measure and see how long that is. Have your dad help you. String that across the floor. 22 feet. That's a big worm. That's a lot of fishing bait. It says fertilizing the soil. Earthworm castings help the soil in gardens and fields stay rich and healthy. Some people have earthworm bins. They put earthworms and rotting food inside these bins. Earthworms eat the food and make castings. People then use the castings to fertilize their gardens. Look at the color of this soil. Without the earthworm castings and turning that food and that rotting stuff into this dark, rich soil, they eat it and then they push it out of their body, and it's called castings. A tomato plant without this kind of soil would only grow maybe 1 tomato. But when you use this composted soil, a tomato plant will then make tons of tomatoes because the minerals that are in the soil make the tomato plant very happy. Earthworms. Did you learn anything? I hope you did. I did when I read through this earthworm book. So I've got my compost stew, and my earthworms are going to go down in there and eat that up, and I'm going to take pictures and post these things as this goes. I read that my stew will take anywhere from 4 weeks to 12 months to turn in to rich, dark soil. That means the banana peeling will be gone, the apple core, the tea bag, the coffee ground. Can you believe that? I can't wait to keep watching and looking and seeing if that turns into that rich soil. And then I don't have tomato plants, but I do have flower plants. And I plan to take all of this rich, beautiful soil to help keep the earth healthy. And I'm going to dump that on my flowers to give them some great minerals to grow from. Now that book and all that information, even though that poem was a little rhyming poem, even that little poem was a rhyming poem, it was nonfiction. She was giving us good advice on what to use to mix up our own compost stew. Could you do that at home? Could you get someone to help you find a container? It doesn't have to be anything special. And could you start paying attention at home this week, the things that you're throwing out to the curb? The plastic, the glass, the metal. Those things can't go in your compost stew. They can be recycled and reused. But those food scraps, and if you eat pistachios or sunflower seeds, could those go in it? They can. And you could start collecting those things, and you could put it in a little bucket, and you can mix it all, cover it, and let it sit. Don't forget to put the wiggly worms with compost cravings in your stew. And check it. I think you'll be surprised at what's going to happen in a few weeks. If you make it smaller, I think it might go faster. The bigger the stew, the longer it's going to take to make. So I paired a little fun fiction story here with that nonfiction book that we just learned from about worms. And here we have the diary of a worm. This little guy is sitting in a garden somewhere with his pencil and his journal on a mushroom with a little red hat. Diary of a Worm by Doreen Cronin. Pictures by Harry Bliss. Let's find, what would a worm, if they could write, what would they write in their journal? Do you have an idea? I have a couple of ideas. Let's read and find out what this little guy puts in his book. Diary of a Worm by Doreen Cronin. Pictures by Harry Bliss. This is another HarperCollins book. March 20th. My mom says there are 3 things I should always remember. The earth gives us everything we need. We dig 2. Number 1. Number 2, when we dig tunnels, we help take care of the earth. Must make tunnel. Help earth breathe. There he goes. Number 3, never bother Daddy when he's eating the newspaper. Here he is. Chomp, chomp. March 29th. Today I tried to teach Spider, his best friend, how to dig. First of all, his legs got stuck. I think I might have twisted one of my ankles. And then he swallowed a bunch of dirt. I give up. Tomorrow, he's going to teach me how to walk upside down. March 30th. Worms cannot walk upside down. Help! Spidey saved him with his spider web. April 4th. Fishing season started today. We all dug deeper. They're down here in their burrow. Did you guys hear something? Wait. April 10th. It rained all night and the ground was soaked. We spent the entire day on the sidewalk. Hopscotch is a very dangerous game. It certainly is from the worm's perspective, isn't it? Ah! April 15th. I forgot my lunch today. I got so hungry that I ate my homework. My teacher made me write, I will not eat my homework 10 times. When I was finished, I ate that too. April 20th, I snuck up on some kids in the park today. They didn't hear me coming. I wiggled up right between them, and they screamed. I love when they do that. May 1st, Grandpa taught us that good manners are very important. So today I said good morning to the first ant I saw. Good morning. There were 600 more of them in the line. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How you doing? Good morning. Nice to see you. Howdy. Good morning. I stood there all day. This is a journal. This is a diary. I can keep going. At one point, he does the hokey pokey, which is pretty funny. Diary of a worm. I don't know if you have a diary or a journal at home. That's something else you could do. You could record what your compost stew looks like. You could write about it, the things you added, the things you had for dinner. Writing and reading are two of the most important things you can do without a teacher, without the internet, without the television. If you'll read something and write something every day, no matter what grade you're starting next year, next school year in August, when we all get to come back and see each other again, you're going to be ready for school. Reading and writing are two of the most important things you can do. I have a little journal here. I have lots of journals. This is a pretty fancy one. Look at this peacock journal. It's a tiny little journal you can write in. I haven't written in this one before. And sometimes we get a fancy little pen to write. It makes it fun to write and draw. Do you have to have a fancy journal to write? Absolutely not. Here's a steno book. It's just a little notebook. Any piece of paper will work. This is what I want you to remember for the next few weeks. Read and write every day. I can't wait to see you in August, and I hope you have a great summer.